Hip-hop.
Anonymous.
Saturdays.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another special Sapo Studios Scratch Track Saturdays. We are here live in Burbank, California. Welcome to our very special studio. That's right. This is, who are you, man? You didn't even introduce yourself.
My name is Dave.
Oh, okay. Hey, Dave. What's going on? I'm Dave, too. And
You are Dave, too.
Yeah, I'm Dave 1. We are Sapo Studios. Our goal is to connect artists with profit opportunities that allow them to retain ownership rights. In the interim, we are talking to artists about music, life, NFTs, and everything in between, including the artist's journey. Today, we have a very interesting artist named Remo Camerota. Also goes by Remo Camerota. How are you, Remo?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, yeah, man.
Welcome.
Really excited about it. And so, Camerota, what is that? What's the origin of that name? Because I definitely wouldn't expect an Australian voice behind it.
Well, it took me 50 years and my wife to help me figure out how to say it very quickly. So I'm Italian, culturally British, born in Britain, and culturally Australian. Therefore, I was born in Britain. My parents are Italian, and I grew up in Australia.
That's quite the mix.
It is a bit of a mix, yeah.
So, what brought you to the States from Australia? Was it art?
Yes, I'm primarily a filmmaker. Well, I'm an artist and a filmmaker. I've been doing both for.
You said an editor?
I was an editor as well, filmmaker. Okay, so I have a degree in fine arts, fashion design, hairdressing, photography and fine arts, and film and television. So,
Man, you're so lazy. Is there anything you don't do?
well, what's interesting is I didn't realize I had 5 university degrees until recently when I was filling out a visa form for the United States artist visa that I'm on, and I had to go through all of the regular schools that I went to and realized that a bunch of those schools had turned into universities now, so I now have 5 university degrees, which is quite interesting.
It's amazing. It's very impressive. And let me ask you. So there are a lot of people that kind of do the thing that they're very passionate about and lean into that thing, or there are then people that are passionate about a lot of different creative things. They lean into all of those things, and wherever success hits in terms of a career, it hits. They don't need it to be in one particular lane. How do you see your journey? Was it that you were passionate about one thing and you kind of ultimately, after trying all of those different things, leaned into that thing? Or was it just, whatever happens, happens, and I'm going to do everything I love?
The second, yeah. Whatever happens, happens, and I do everything I love, yeah. One thing about me is I tend to get bored doing the same thing over and over again. And I always understood successful people always, repeat and put out their work, repeat and put out their work. But I was always one to try something new. Thus, in my early years of university, 18 years of university, I tried many different things, as I just told you. Ended up with film, television, photography, and fine arts, and took those paths. Started off editing and directing Foxtel Sports in the 90s, which was really interesting. We would go to New Zealand, and I would be jumping out of helicopters on the top of mountains that I've never even snowboarded before, and taught in split second by pro snowboarders to film them going down the mountain, which was fine for me.
So you're on a snowboard holding a camera going down a mountain after you've just jumped out of a helicopter to do so?
Basically, yes, because you can't get up there any other way.
That sounds epic.
That was pretty epic.
When's the last time you did that?
That was 1998, I think it was something like that. And
Now,
That's awesome.
you know, I know maybe this bores some people, but just from an insurance perspective, how do you get insured for something like that? Because, you know, someone like Tom Cruise.
Dave, did you not hear? He said, "Whatever happens, happens."
You're
There
right.
was no insurance.
that's right.
Well,
No,
no, I mean,
working
like, you know.
I was working for Foxtel, so the insurance would have been
Through that.
through them, I suppose.
They didn't give you any details on that, huh? You just kind
No,
of yeah.
we
That's a
went
good question
there.
now, all these years later. Yeah.
We went there, and all of a sudden I'm in helicopters, and I'm hanging out of helicopters filming.
And then on the way down, you're like,
breaking
"What
their
about the
legs.
insurance?"
Yeah.
Well, you know, I just think about someone like Tom Cruise who, like, with all the crazy stunts that he wants to do himself, he had to actually create his own insurance company because no company would insure him for all of the crazy stuff that he wanted to do. So, you know, I was just curious.
Well, that's true because usually they would get a stuntman to do his
Right.
job, but he wants to do him
Yeah,
himself.
yeah.
Right.
Therefore, in this case, I actually never ever thought about it, to be honest, because it was my first job out of university. And
Right.
it's not one of those things you think about immediately.
Right, you're just
All
like,
you're
"This is
thinking
awesome."
It's just like, I'm in New Zealand and I'm on the top of the highest mountain there, and the only way you can get there is by helicopter. So that was a beginning of a great journey, I suppose. And
So, do you see yourself as an adrenaline junkie in any way, or were you just kind of thrust into this particular adrenaline rush situation and that was an
No,
isolated
I was
incident?
definitely an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
On that trip, I bungee jumped and we went whitewater rafting, and I was never one to say no and whatnot. So I kind of liked that the experience. I skateboard and longboard down mountains and things like that, and so don't do all that stuff anymore because as you get older, your bones get more brittle. And
Yeah, they don't cooperate as much.
do not want to hit the concrete at
Yeah.
40 miles an hour anymore. But
So, did you do narrative filmmaking as well?
yes, yeah. So I've done a bunch of shorts and many documentaries on music.
Now, were you shooting those?
I was shooting them, directing them, editing them,
Wow.
special effects on them. So
All
in that
like
first-
your one man band show up
Yeah.
and do the whole thing.
And back in those days, which was the beginning of the 2000s, I suppose, no people couldn't believe or didn't want to believe that you could do many things
You're
well
on your own.
They want to pigeonhole you. You're this, you're that, and whatnot. But I had some great lecturers, actually, and they're still prominent in the art world today. And they always were very good at enabling you to think outside the box and also think beyond just sticking to one thing. Because, as I said before, to me, sticking to one thing always gets
Boring.
stale.
Yeah.
It's not boring, it just gets stale. And I do still, hold on to some of the mascots that I had created many years ago. They still do very well today. And I still love doing them. And they're all different every single time. For instance, one of my Mickey skulls is a mascot of mine. And I created him in the early 2000s.
Yeah, speaking of Mickey, Andy Jane Armstrong, who works for the Frogland team, was telling me to ask you about that she believes at one point you had done a mini collab with Frogland. That there was like one.
There's one green one.
Yeah, there was one
Still
green
sitting
one.
in my folio for
Yeah, so she was alluding to the fact that you only use certain colors, and that was rare for you to use the color green. Is that right?
I've never used the color green on him, and I never have, and I told them I never will again. And so that's theirs. It's still sitting there. I've held it in my folio.
It's in the vault.
It's in the vault for them when they're ready to pick that up. So, yeah.
So as you're developing your career in all aspects of the creative arts, is it that you found the most success doing artwork? More than you found in video and editing, or did you just find that you enjoyed it more?
I enjoy them all equally, to be honest. It's more of what opportunities come along at what time.
Mm-hmm.
In my career, anyway, which has been interesting. Of course, there's been ups and downs. I'm a career artist. Basically, I've been painting since I can remember. Going back to school, the teachers used to get me to paint the yearly mural on the wall of the the 12th Supper or whatever, which is crazy at the age of 6 to be painting Michelangelo, which apparently was really good because I have these are just memories of mine, but my cousin was there and he's there to witness that he actually saw them. I remember them, and some of them I don't remember. He brought up, and like some underwater scene that I'd painted with a frogman or something, and he said it was very good and realistic and this and that.
So you had inherent talent, because there are artists that we've spoken to recently that talk about there's a misconception that everyone has to be born with the talent that you see them with, and some of it can be cultivated. But it sounds like your talent was apparent right from an early age.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to be an artist. When everyone got asked what they want to be when they grew up, I was always like, I'm going to be an artist. Of course, everybody laughed, all the adults, oh, you can't make money from that. And I said, well, I will. And
to that end, when you talk about making money, so a lot of artists, a lot of creative types have to do a lot of other things in order to survive. So a lot of actors. The old joke is that they all wait tables. Every one of the waiters in LA is also an actor and a model and whatever else. Did you have to do a lot of side gigs, or it kind of sounds like you leaned right into your creative?
No, I just leaned. I haven't had a boss per se. I've had clients, but I haven't had a boss since that Foxtel job.
Since he was 6, David.
Yeah, since I was 6, basically. I really haven't had a boss in the last 40 years, which I'm lucky enough to say that. Although I have had a lot of ups and downs and, close calls and all that, but something always seems to
pop up at the right time.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, in saying that, before we were talking about me not being pigeonholed into one thing or another, I could always lean on editing. So if I needed some money, there's an editing gig, or then I could do some creative directing, or
And it's just to keep going, right? And just to keep the dream going. And it's like you're not waiting tables at that point. You're getting a little bit of fulfillment from the arts, if you will, by creative directing, by editing. It may not be like your passion project, but it's still within the world, which I think kind of allows you to keep the fire lit. Because if you're like, I felt like when we were in the restaurant, like, I don't know if I could still be doing that all this time.
No, it sucks the life out of you, and sometimes you make stupid decisions because you forget what your priorities are.
Yeah.
I've talked about this before. When I first came out to LA, I came out wanting to be an actor. And I started working in restaurants, and I'm someone that, because my parents raised me this way, I've always had good work ethic. So whatever I do, I really throw myself into. So if I was working for a restaurant, then I was there for them,
And all the servers around thought that he was trying to be like a chef, like an owner, like a chef. He's like, so you're going to run the restaurant here,
right? Right. But no, I remember, I was working for this one restaurant, and I got a Sony audition. Now, who knows if this Sony commercial would have been anything, if I would have gotten a callback, even whatever. But it's something that like haunts me, because I'll never forget that I decided that I couldn't possibly call out of work. I couldn't possibly miss my shift because I'm a responsible person, and it was so immediate within like a couple of days that I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why did you move out here? What are you doing? This is your opportunity. And yeah, I mean, you can get lost in that stuff sometimes.
Well, funny you should mention opportunities, because opportunity presents itself all the time, and I don't really believe that ideas come from us. They come from the ether, and people that.
You got to pay attention.
You got to pay attention. You got to see that they're there and grasp them, even if they might not be an end in sight, and go for it. So you was talking about your responsibility to the restaurant, but your responsibility really was to yourself and to you being an actor.
That's right.
Therefore, that had gotten buried from you being, so focused on being at this restaurant, I guess, that you forgot, just for a split moment, that you should be concentrating on your acting.
Yeah, and it really took the pandemic to get me out of that world. It was like, okay, here's finally like something that's literally pulling me away from it and showing me that there are other things that I can do to survive and still be able to really fulfill my creative desires. And thank God for that.
And give you time to do that
And
because
give you
I feel
time
like you're
to do
so
that,
drained.
yes.
So, what's your advice to somebody that would be like in his situation? You just kind of like gave it to him a little bit, but like, what would you tell somebody who's in that situation today?
I constantly just tell people to follow your dreams, but also and never give up on them. But also be careful what you wish for, because when you do wish for certain things and they do come true, which has happened to me many times, then all of a sudden that dream becomes a job in a way, even though I was saying that I haven't had a boss, but even still clients are like bosses.
Right.
And then those jobs, they can become nightmares in and of themselves.
Yeah, you know that I just finished watching Baby Reindeer, and it's on Netflix. Great show, very brutal and visceral.
The
and
actor wrote it, directed, starred in it,
And survived
and
the
it's
real life
based
trauma.
on his life.
Yeah,
So he like relived all of the.
See, that's
it's
fantastic.
wild.
Wild.
But you know, he there's a line on the show that I remember. He said, you know, I spent so much time going after success because I thought it would bring me happiness until I realized that it was one or the other.
And that's so true.
And
because
that's wild because
kind of-
to be fighting so hard for something, and I think every creative knows what that's like, to be fighting so hard to grasp this thing that you think is what you want. And is that the thing you want? Is it more about maybe the process than you know what the outcome of that process
I think that goes
is?
back to what John Mayer would say about like it's like catching the fish and then being like, wait, I have the fish. It's like I'm gonna throw it back in and try to catch it again. Because like it's about
It's the process.
yeah.
That's what I realized myself when I reached a point of success where I thought, oh yeah, everything will change now. I'm going to be happy and all that, but nothing changes. In fact, it might almost get worse. But at that point, I realized it's not the actual what everyone else thinks is success. It's what is success to you. And for me, success to me is to be able to create and do what I love to do every day, which I'm lucky enough to do that at this point in my life, which is great.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, I think there's so much power in perspective, and you know that's you know something that when people realize not only perspective but intention, speaking things into existence, there's so much power in intention and words and all of that. And I kind of want to use that to segue into what you were talking to me about before the show started, which was this idea of manifesting a trip to Japan.
Yeah.
So you were kind enough to gift this book to me, which is so cool. It's called Graffiti Japan. And I think you said it was your first book release, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about this journey and what this book is and how you manifested your trip to Japan.
Well, yeah, it was about 2005. I had already done some successful things. I worked on Foxtel, like I said before. I also worked with Gene Simmons and Kiss and toured with them, and I co-directed or videographied, I guess, their symphony tour in Melbourne, and I co-directed Gene Simmons Speaking in Tongues, which was a talking thing that he did around Australia, and that was a lot of fun. So I had already reached, a point of a track to build from. But at this point, I was actually on one of the low points in my life, and I was just thinking to myself, I'd love to go to Japan. I always wanted to go to Japan. I'm a big manga fan. To this date now, I've created a couple of manga, animations, hopefully they'll become, but graphic novels. But that wasn't before this. And I was just thinking, I'd love to go to Japan. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there this year. And about 2 weeks later, I found this publishing company that had released these books on graffiti. And my early days in Australia are graffiti-based. And the photographs in there were very similar to the photographs I take. And also some of my work was in one of their books, which was Graffiti Melbourne, I think it was called, or Melbourne Graffiti. So I wrote to them. I couldn't even afford the book. That's how down and out I was. So I wrote, their email on the back of my hand, and I wrote to them, sent them a bunch of photos, and they loved my photos, but they said, I said I take photos. These are all my photos from Melbourne. They said, well, we've got this Melbourne book. You got any other ideas? And I thought, well, there's never been a book on graffiti in Japan, and I know it's very different, and the subculture comes from New York and Los Angeles, etc., and it's quite a young art form in Japan. Well, they started in the early 90s. So they loved the idea, and 2 weeks later I was on a plane going to Japan to photograph this.
That's awesome, man.
Unbelievable. Now, a lot of graffiti, as I understand it, is basically people doing something illegal because they're tagging properties that they don't have permission to tag, and they're going in the thick of the night so that they don't get caught and this and that. Were these art jobs that you were commissioned to do in a way that like people knew that you were allowed to be doing this, or were you in a foreign country illegally spray painting on buildings?
Well, no, these are actual artists that I met in Japan and photographed with them, and then I would go around and graffiti with them, but I didn't do any illegal graffiti with them. They all were at the point of getting commissioned works at that time, so I would be filming and photographing them and doing works with them on those projects. So they were completely legal at that time. But
and even if they were illegal, David, he wouldn't tell you on the air right now because he's being.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so far after the fact that I felt like
there might be a few things that I put up here next to Shepherd Ferry and this and that I had done. Just
I won't say anything. Don't worry.
No.
So let's talk about some of the other things that you've done. I was reading a little bit about this moon project, which sounds like the coolest thing ever. You're wearing a NASA hat right now. Yeah. Love it. And so the idea is, from what I was reading, that they chose 222 artists.
That's correct.
To select different pieces of their artwork to essentially create a moon vault of different pieces of art, and basically all of these different artworks would be in this vault, literally on the moon.
That's correct.
How do you
It
get
is on the
selected
moon.
for something? It's already there. It's already there.
Yeah.
But who put it there? How did he get there?
Yeah. How do you get
Did-
selected for
was
something
it-
like this?
Was it Elon?
Went up on the SpaceX Falcon 9, but he had nothing to do with it.
Wait, for real?
For real, yeah. So
Oh, you had it right. It was
that's
on,
cool.
It was on the.
I was just
SpaceX
joking.
rocket.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
it was on the Falcon 9. NASA was sending the lunar module up to the moon, as you know. It landed there in February. This has been going on for 2 years, and I was invited by Scott Page, who's a friend of mine. He also
He's a good guy. He's been on the show.
Saxophone player for
Yep.
Pink Floyd.
There you
Yep.
go. Yeah. So I don't need to explain that. So he was, and we had done a collaboration together on his photographs, which I have created, which will be released soon. And he told me that he was going to put them on the moon. So I thought, wow, that's fantastic.
Wait, was it his idea?
Well, not the whole thing,
Oh.
but this particular, for us to put our stuff on, and he wanted to put his stuff on the moon, more stuff on the moon as well, and he was going to put that, he put that project on the moon. He was invited by a company called Space Blue, and they created this vault called the Lunar Prize. We weren't allowed to talk about it for many years because it had 3 launches that were a no-go. So you couldn't talk about it, apparently, because if it blew up or whatever, then there would be nothing there.
I was going to ask,
Are there
was there any
copies?
concern on your part that your art might be destroyed? Because that's always a possibility.
Were you putting the original copies?
No,
or they're all
it's all
digital.
Yeah. So it's just like these. From what I saw, they're like big discs, like laser discs. And they put the artwork on there. And there's actually thousands of artworks on there. 222 chosen artists, and then those chosen artists were able to bring other people on board and stuff like that. That's how I got on board with Scott, and then I got offered a position, which is number 25. Which is a great.
I saw that. Yeah.
That's amazing. And
Nice low number.
Is there some place that the general public can go and see these digital pieces of art?
Eventually, there will be, apparently, as
The
far as I
moon,
know,
David.
The moon, yes. And our metaverse, I think, will have a
Virtual experience of the moon.
the actual gallery, so you go and be able to see. There's music works up there and NFTs, and ours were more NFT based sort of stuff. So,
What was your first foray into getting into the NFT world and digital art, AI, and all of that stuff, that new emerging technology?
well, I've always, as I was not pigeonholed, I was always into tech, bioscience, and arts, and they all melded together with me from a very early age. But at university, I always combined these things together. So I was a bit of a bit of a tech geek. Already doing VR in the 90s, called Garage VR, we called it, whatever. It was very basic VR technology and whatnot. It never took off then. It's still not really taking off now.
Right.
I'm not sure why. I think it's something to do with the headsets, personally.
Yeah.
And getting dizzy in there after a certain amount of time and whatnot. But, static works in there are fine. Games, they can get confusing. Moving objects and film would be... Short films probably would work fine. But my own experience, a feature film in there would be pretty...
Too much.
Claustrophobic.
Like, I've actually tried to watch Netflix in the
Oculus?
MetaQuest 3, and it's like, you can't even watch a show. Like, the integration is really cool, how they made the room. They made it like a TV, and it's like sweet. But after like the first 30 seconds of the television show, I'm like, I cannot imagine myself sitting there for that.
I'm the same. It's interesting because
I'd like to.
I'm all for technology and moving forward and creating these innovations that have never been done before. But this particular one, I need to find something. I think Tilt Brush was, Tilt Brush, from Google, where you could go in and paint things. I think that's a great tool, and being able to create within a space with the headset on, that's fantastic. And I think that is probably the best use of it for me as an artist anyway, to be able to create a space in there where people can then go and walk through it and whatnot, and they can take their time, or they can get out in 10 seconds or whatever, so you're not confined in there for like
2 hours,
2 hours, whatever. I've been to shows where you put the headset on, you can't take it off until the end of the ride. It's like a ride, and by the time you're feeling sick. So
I'm interested to know, I saw a quote of yours. I don't know if it was in our text messages or something that you sent me that I read, but it talked about using AI ethically. And I was wondering if you can elaborate on that. Just kind of tell us what you think is unethical use of AI, and how you try to use AI more ethically as opposed to less.
Yeah, that's interesting to say that. Okay, so I collaborate with a company called Impact. And my partner on that, he's the only AI ethical director in the world, which before AI all blew up and everything, we've been working with AI for many years now. And he was the only person in the world that actually sat down with these, the robots that you see in shops, SoftBank robots and all that. They have to get trained, and he was the ethical trainer of them. It was more towards, making sure that they were safe in the public space and they would not hurt kids. It was more geared towards kids, and so you wouldn't walk into a SoftBank store and the thing would slap you in the face,
right?
Which has
maybe some of those kids nowadays, they need that. Walk in, just
I think you might be right.
But then that company will get sued. So there's a lot of I'm sure a lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of rigorous training that goes into these AIs that are out in the world, especially the 3-dimensional models or the robotic models. So eventually, so he's the only AI director and ethical director in the world. I work with him, and so we've been, it's all about, okay, so So what Impact does, and him separately with other companies that he works with, Microsoft and the Turing Trust and things like that. We try to, or they try, we all try to create things that will help humanity. So for the Ukraine war, I can't talk too much about it, but they're able to make things that help the victims in Ukraine. They're able to make things that help displaced people in the world. And
so the AI endeavors that you're a part of aren't only from an art perspective.
Yeah.
Some of them are
That's
humanitarian
really
endeavors.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. A lot of this is going on. A lot of people don't know about it.
While maybe you can't speak to specifics about exactly what the project you're on is doing, are there any specifics that you can give us surrounding how AI can facilitate some of the things you're talking about? Because I'm kind of having a little bit of a disconnect as far as where it comes into play.
Sure. So this is apart from the arts. So this is more like, okay, so you've lost you have victims in Ukraine, and they're lost. So that we're able to make, or they were able to make drones that would find them. But then
like detection. Essentially, like AI detection.
AI
So,
mapping.
so it wouldn't be like a person in a helicopter
that
using
might have
those resources
crashed
to
in the
like
mountains
to
or
like
something.
look around.
That's right.
We're not.
But
Wow,
then
that's
there's a
interesting.
nefarious side, which is the unethical side, where
Right.
the enemy might come in and they might capture one of these drones that were built by the ethical side and then re-engineer it to do the opposite.
Right.
So there's right there. There's example of ethical use and unethical use, and that's beyond the arts. That's
From your estimation, do the benefits outweigh the risks in terms of
yes, yeah. I mean, AI
because people are so afraid of what AI is capable of in terms of essentially turning on humanity.
Well, that's I think that's a lot to do with movies, to be honest, and popular culture and what we've painted AI to be. But
So Terminator is not real.
well, in saying that, a lot of
He will be.
films, like if you look at Star Trek and whatnot, and a lot of the gadgets they create, they're now we hold a bloody
I'm still waiting for the transporter.
we're all waiting for the
Beam me
transport.
up,
That's
Remo.
right. Yeah.
Beam me up.
I know. We got to make sure we get put back together properly.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Otherwise,
not in a wall.
Come out looking like a Picasso.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which might be good. You
Yeah.
could sell yourself.
Be
at that
interesting.
point. Yeah. So, and then if we go into the arts and AI in the arts, a year ago I was lucky enough to find out that the AI platforms knew who I was. I mean, I'm a career artist, therefore my work's been on the internet for 40 years or so. Well, not 40 years. It hasn't even been around 40 years. So since the beginning, I suppose, since the 90s. And therefore, I needed to do a job, and it needed to be quick, but I couldn't get it done quickly. I thought, well, I might prompt myself. When I prompted myself, I realized that the AI knew my work and was able to create a mood board, which is what I had to do in this particular case, very quickly, as opposed to it being a week. It took an hour, and it was like done. And it was great. There's the mood board. But not only that, I had an epiphany that the AI knew me, and then my friends were writing to me saying that, hey, GPT Chat knows you, and there's a bloody novel on me by GPT Chat. And I'm like,
Is that exciting or scary?
no, it was quite exciting, actually, because it was quite accurate.
Yeah.
I was like, because, there's a lot of hallucinations that come with AI and
Right.
whatnot, but
But it's because you're friends with the ethical person who was like training them, so like they trained it properly to a T about you. They knew who you were. Is that how it would work then? Essentially, is like if AI knew who you were, that means that somebody had to train it on you, correct?
well,
Or like choose.
training itself, right? So
Providing it with data.
Yeah.
So
So as soon as you ask it something, it can see everything instantly, which is really hard to grasp, abstract sort of concept. So as soon as I say create something in my style, then it will just look at my work and then put together an image created from all the thousands of work that I have on the internet.
now there are people that argue that even if you're being more efficient as a result of this so that you can then focus on other things that you find to be more important in the creative process, you're still taking away parts of the creative process that, if you believe that the process is the most important part, then you're sort of, providing that void in the creative space. How do you feel about that?
Okay, well, let me just say I feel like AI is Photoshop for our generation. If you recall, if you're old enough to recall, back in the 90s when Photoshop was invented, everyone thought the photographs were going to be, defunct. Photoshop was going to take over and everyone was going to create photos on Photoshop. No, that's not true. Photoshop is now one of the most used tools in, creating photographs and regenerating them and correcting them and all that sort of stuff. So this is a far more advanced tool, the most advanced tool we've had in human history, really. Yet it can do some wonderful things. But again, it's a tool. Mm-hmm. And it's not the tool that's going to turn against humanity. It's somebody behind the tool.
Right.
So bringing it back to the example about what I talked about before, it's humans that can reverse engineer stuff and humans that go in there and tell the tool to do something.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's also interesting when you look at it from the perspective that, if you're doing this really intentionally, you are feeding it a great amount of, let's say, your material or somebody else's, so that it can use that body of work to then move forward. So it's not really creating stuff out of thin air, and it's not like none of your hard work went into that, because you did, spend those hours creating those things for it to then work off of those pieces of data.
And that's where the ethical use of AI and arts come in. Because I prompt it to use my work. Therefore, it's using my work that I've done over the last 40 years to create something new, which then actually takes away the whole idea of everything's been done. Because now it hasn't, because now you could actually just do one piece of art like this piece here that I've done. And I could just recreate that over and over and over again just by feeding it into an AI machine and just asking it to redo it and redo it and redo it. Mm-hmm. And you could just have one image that goes on forever.
Were you telling me that this image on your shirt is actually one of the images on the moon?
This is, yeah. This is Big Girl. She was my second NFT.
Super cool.
This is a variation. The one on the moon is the first variation, which is a colourful one. And and that was my NFT number 2. And also my Genesis Aaron NFT is also up there. So I have about 50 works up there, I think.
Amazing.
Collaborations with some great people.
Another way in which you were using AI was to create music videos, right?
Yes.
So I was reading a little bit about your nephew, who you've done a lot of work with, who's a musician. And I think it's the bio said that he was the only person that plays and sings songs backwards, and he was on Fallon for that, right?
That's correct. Yeah, they invite him on the show, and what he does is he just struck it big by just coming up with this great idea of playing music backwards and singing it backwards. He grew up in my studio, and I always play music. I also play music as well. I've been in bands, still have bands, and I often reversed music all the time, and he saw me do that. We've played music together. He's probably my longest collaborator, to be honest. Since he was 8 years old, I saw the talent in him and helped him harness it.
Where can someone see some of the collaborations that the two of you have done together?
You can go to joeljameslive.com, or you can go to his Instagram.
Is that Joel or Joe?
Joel.
Joel. JamesLive.com.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
And we just did this project together. The video hasn't come out yet, but it's about the world, destroying itself, whatnot. So we thought it might be appropriate to use AI to create the video, which shows the world, getting destroyed. But then there's hope at the end of the rainbow, and the world, restores itself. So we're in the middle of doing that at the moment. And
well, that's Remo here to tell you there is still hope, folks. In case you thought that it was gone, we're holding on hope.
I don't think that AI is going to destroy the world, but I do think that people are the worry behind it. That's my own.
As it always has been with guns, with
it's
everything.
It
Like,
may
it's
not
always
be
people.
AI, but they'll find a way to destroy themselves and each other.
I know. Although the inventor of the AI, AI invented itself, so he says he just asked it to data learn, and it created itself. He doesn't even know that it might become sentient or not. So,
Okay, wait. This is the first I've heard about this whole thing. What does that mean? It created itself.
okay, so there's a great 60-minute interview with the person that started this in 1972. He was trying to create I forget his name, I'm sorry, but the person that eventuated to create the AI, he started off mapping the brain, and he wanted to create a computer that sort of mimicked the brain. And 50 years later, we have AI. But he had created from what I understand, he created a computer which asked another computer to teach itself everything it can about everything. And at that point, that computer created itself, and that's how AI.
Oh my god.
Yes.
So the idea of these computers becoming sentient isn't that far-fetched if you consider that scenario in and of itself.
I also heard
When
that
the-
AI lied, that it made up a whole thing. It called a service and made up
It can do that, yeah. They call it hallucinations, as you know, and
Well, wait.
I'm not sure about this
Explain what
particular
an AI hallucination is, if you may.
Oh, okay. You might ask it something, and it will tell you a lie. That's a
I see.
AI hallucination.
Okay.
Yeah. So they call them hallucinations. It does that a lot, actually. So you might have come across it yourself. You've asked GPT chat something, but you know that not to be true. It's hallucinating. It's telling you something else. It's very interesting.
That's wild. Well, you were calming me down, and now you've ramped me up again. I'm not sure how to feel about this stuff.
Well, I'm up and down with it all
Yeah.
the time too.
We're in danger. Danger, Will Robinson.
When I was looking through a couple of the other people you collaborated with, one of the names that stood out to me was Val Kilmer. I would love to know what your collaboration with Val was like.
Sure, that's fantastic. It's ongoing. Out of the blue, I got a call a couple of years ago to create an artwork for Camp Kilmer, which is his company.
And just to stop you there for a minute, is that moment amazing for you when you realize that the body of work that stands underneath you speaks for itself so well that you just get reached out to like that by someone that important?
Yes. I thought it was a scam, of course, at first, because you get a lot of these people on Twitter and whatnot, they reach out. But this person, Randy Levi, who's the producer there, rang me. So that was different in and of itself. And also the material he sent me was evident in the Amazon show called Val. So I knew the material he sent me to work on was actually created by him. So I quickly realized it wasn't a scam. Of course, and then at that point, yes, I felt like that. It was like, wow.
Such a wonderful validation.
How long ago was that?
That was, I've got to say 2 years ago. It could have been 3 years ago now. I think 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now, yeah. The beginning of 2021 or
And what specifically were you doing for them in terms of your
So
artwork?
they just wanted me to do a logo, and then I suggested something about their first NFT that they were releasing that I could create it into a moving piece as opposed to a still piece they were releasing, and they loved that idea. And then from that,
So they were already releasing an NFT on their own venture.
Yeah, they were, and they needed a logo, and they contacted me, and they wanted me to do a collaboration with one of Val's works at some point. that happened, and then slowly I ended up joining forces with them, and I still work with them to this day. And we've released many collaborations with Val now, myself, and myself with many other artists, Tom Amperetz and Lawrence Fuller, and who else? Wes Henry, and we have quite a full body of work out there with Val Kilmer, and it was a great moment.
Did you get an opportunity to meet Val?
Yeah, I've met him a couple of times now. Yeah,
I mean, he seems like such a sweet guy. It's terrible what happened to him with the throat cancer, and I was such a big Val Kilmer fan for the entirety of his career. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is the same. He's on the moon too. I put Bat Val.
Oh, cool.
I've created my collaboration with him was called Bat Val. At the time, I thought that he actually loved playing Batman, but then when I read his biography and whatnot, I realized he did not love playing Batman. So I had to switch the artwork from it being more of being more conceptual about the fact that why he did not like playing Batman.
They say don't meet your heroes because a lot of times these people will let you down in one way or another. Has your experience been, because it sounds like you've worked with a lot of very established people, that generally people have pleasantly surprised you, or have you had instances in which you're like, wow, this person is really an asshole? And obviously you don't have to name names. I'm just curious about the temperature out there.
Both. I won't mention names, but
please feel free to if you'd like.
I better not.
Yeah.
I've met some heroes of mine which have not necessarily let me down, but like probably better have not to met them. But at the same time, that person may have helped you in other ways that you did not see until many years later. And then there's others that I've met. You know, I work with Gerald Casale from Devo for the last 12 years now, and that's been a pleasant ride, and we've done a few wonderful things together, and I put their stuff on the moon, our collaboration on the moon as well. And Scott Page from Pink Floyd.
Do you think any ETs have tinkered around with any of?
No, well, that's what we're hoping for, I suppose. It's up there for 1 billion years, so who knows what's going to happen.
That's really wild. I wonder if anyone's like, or anything is like, what are these?
Before they destroy it, they might just think, oh, what's this bang? Who knows?
You know, in all of the major projects that you've worked on with all of these important people, was there a moment that stands out to you as a real wow moment for you, where you kind of had to pinch yourself and say, holy crap, look what I'm doing?
There's been a few, because I was a Kiss fan when I was a kid, like a very passionate Kiss fan when I was a kid. That was another manifestation, actually. I used to look at those Kiss album covers, you know, when we were kids in the 70s. Albums were the greatest thing, you know, they were works of art and whatnot. And I would look at these album covers, and because I knew I wanted to be an artist, I would always say, I'd love to do album covers, not knowing that I would ever work for Kiss at all or anything, but I was particularly looking at a Kiss album cover thinking, these are great, beautiful paintings, and I would love to do that sort of thing.
Amazing.
And then lo and behold, 20, 30 years later, I'm actually working with Gene Simmons directly.
That's
and
wild.
then my work ended up being, you know, on the covers of their albums and in their booklets and in their videos and all of that. So beyond the album cover, and then I got to do Donna Summer music video, and also a poster, a limited release poster for her album in 2012. Unfortunately, after her death, of course, but it was a re-release of remixes or something, so that was great. So so that was an early manifestation that I did not know I was manifesting, obviously, when I was 8, saying that I would love to grow up and do this. I mean, you know, everyone does that, I guess, at some point, but I did realize the connection.
But you, like, stuck to the path. Like, you could say it when you're 8, and then you could be like, listen to everyone around you and then go be a doctor or something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
So for people that would be watching this, there are some people that say being consistent is the most important thing. There are other people that say your attitude when you're working with others is the most important thing. What would you say, if you can pinpoint, is one of the most important things when you're talking about finding success in the field of your passion?
Just do what you love and listen to your instincts. Your instincts know best. I've come to learn many times. Getting opinions from other people is always fantastic and helpful. At the end of the day, if you love what you're doing and you do a lot of it, I think an abundance of it is also important. Like, doing one a year is not really going to get you anywhere, but if you just do it every day and you do what you love every day and you put things out there all the time, take risks, definitely take risks. I've taken so many risks, I can't count. And that's how I've gotten these wow moments. I could discuss a couple of wow moments. So the Kiss one was a wow moment. This Graffiti Japan was a wow moment. It changed my whole life. I ended up living in Japan and marrying my wonderful wife, who's Japanese, and then going on to create another book called Drain Spotting, which is about manhole covers in Japan, which no one really knows about, even to this day.
That's a great name, Drain Spotting.
Yes, it is, and and that's what they're called, drain spotters, in English anyway. The drains in Japan, they're painted in a way they're all animated. Every single town, which are called prefectures, and there's thousands of them. There's over 10,000 designs. They have these wonderful kind of manga-ish images on them, and they're colourful. They're done in a traditional form. They're not cheap to make, yet they do this in every prefecture. And I discovered that while I was doing this book, and that became a bestseller. It still is a bestseller 15 years later, which is fantastic. There's not many copies left. I have the last of them. And a wow factor there was that little book. It was 6 inches by 6 inches, was found by Hong Kong Town Gas, and they got me to fly over to Hong Kong and create manhole covers for their town.
Wow.
So this little book's changed the landscape of another town, and then the same thing happened in Singapore as well with the same thing. So that's another wow factor. Another wow factor, I suppose, was being invited by the Society of Fine French Arts to go and exhibit in... And they're an institution that's been going for 165 years, maybe 166 years now. They've had everyone from Man Ray and Surrealists and Monet, and I could go on. And now my name's on the list, and they invited me to go and show. I get invited every year now. The first few were at Carousel du Louvre, so I had my work in the Carousel du Louvre. So when you kind of hit that point, that's when you go, wow, maybe I've actually achieved something, right. 40 years after you started type thing, but like, it's those kind of moments that you have to pinch yourself about. And of course, the moon landing.
Yeah.
Like I said, that went on for 2 years, and it was kind of put to the back of my mind, it may never get taken off. And then when it actually took off, it was like, then that was like a wow moment. That's what have we done? Oh, I wish I put more work up there now. All those sorts of things. So,
well,
yeah.
I just love this idea that, you were so intentional about sticking to your path. And, when I asked you about doing other things, waiting tables and things, it sounded like right off the bat, it was just, you're going to do the things that facilitate this passion within you, and hopefully that will lead to success within the lane that you'd like it to lead to. And it seems to have. And that's really inspiring, because, it can be scary to do that and to not
and actually
feel that sense of security that you might otherwise feel with a consistent paycheck. I mean, even when you talk about that, you could always lean back on the editing. As a freelance editor, you can't guarantee that you're going to get work. So even that, it's brave.
Well, it's
brave.
Still scary to this day, believe it or not. So, although I can boast about not having a boss for like 30 years or whatever, it's still a roller coaster ride. It's never steady roll,
And that's why you're brave.
and that's why I suppose, and that's why I live in the land of the brave
Yes.
right now.
Tell me a little bit before we wrap up about this new project that you've got coming out. It's an AI Frankenstein project, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And is it paired with Christina Aguinaga?
Christina Aguinara, she introduced me to the fine folks at Legible Books, or legible.com, I should say. They have started a crusade, I guess, to be the first audible book company, publishers to create AI books. They've already created 3. Christmas Carol, Animal Farm, and another one, a cookbook with Christina Ferreira, who was a supermodel and a TV host and whatnot. And that's doing really well. And I was introduced to them by Christina. Fortunately enough, she's a great advocate for wonderful artists. And they thought just kind of the same thing what happened with Val Kilmer's company. What I didn't touch on before is that they thought they were just hiring me as an artist to do 1 or 2 things, and I ended up becoming, part of the committee and choosing artists and collaborating with most of the artists that came on board. Same thing kind of happened here. They thought they would just hire me to do like 10 images for Frankenstein, and it became apparent that I had all these crazy ideas, which I do. One thing I'll say about AI is wonderful is now finally people can actually see what my brain looks like on the inside. So, because
Which can be a good thing or a bad thing.
We experienced that from you yesterday, David, where you're setting up that
let's
raccoons climbing out of people's
no,
chests.
Well,
That's
so,
the inside of
I
his
was
brain.
I was playing with AI. Thanks, man.
Man, he said,
just put me on blast.
You could see the inside of his brain on the internet. I got to see the inside of your brain yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
What the
So
hell?
Zuckerberg released Meta AI into Instagram. In the DM section, there's a search bar at the top where you can now go in, and it allows you to generate images and do all sorts of things with AI. So I wanted to see how far it could go, what it wouldn't do, what it would do. It will not generate the likeness of any
Joe
celebrity.
Biden eating Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
Will not.
Yeah, I
You
tried
can't see
that.
a picture of Joe Biden eating
But
a bowl
yeah,
of
no,
Fruit Loops.
they put serious parameters, and it's unlike any of the other AI generative programs that I've used, where they don't allow for any of those likenesses to be used, and there are a lot of certain instances of violence which they won't depict.
However,
and some of them they will.
But the problem is there is workarounds as well. It's still
Yeah.
the way you word it.
Yeah, exactly.
But then again, that touches on the ethical use of AI again.
Right.
So they are actually being ethical in that.
Yeah, they're trying to. I mean,
unethical user of AI.
I know. I even went as far as to do those workarounds, and I said, "Let me see Mike Tyson riding a giraffe," and it wouldn't do it. And I said, "Okay, show me someone that looks like Mike Tyson riding a giraffe," but it wouldn't do that either.
Right,
But
okay.
I'm sure there are.
Show me a giraffe.
Show me a giraffe.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Or blend this image of this person with the giraffe. There you go.
Right. So, okay. So lastly, you were talking a little bit about this Frankenstein thing. So, what is an AI audiobook?
Well, yeah. Well, so we're inventing it as we go along, which is fantastic. It's already been invented. They've put 3 out. So this particular one, I'm very excited about. Horror is really one of my genres. I know Frankenstein very well. I think it was my first horror movie I saw as a kid, and so
Boris Karloff.
Of course. Yep. And now I'm delving right deep into it. So at the moment, I'm working out a skeleton or a map, I should say, of Mary Shelley's text, the original text, and then I go in and I create in my own style, which I can do, not just still images, but like images of what is going on in the text. So the text, you'll be able to have the text being read out while you'll be able to see an animation that I created of the thoughts of Victor Frankenstein or whatever. And there'll be other things in there like I'll have images of Frankenstein that I have created, and you might be able to upload your photograph and turn yourself into Frankenstein or something like that. And we might be able to get people to prompt me to, from anywhere in the world, to sign their ebook. Like we just come up with great ideas like that. They've
really
never
cool.
been done before.
Do you happen to know why there's such an interest in Frankenstein right now? I mean, I don't know if you're aware of this. You may be because of the project you're working on, but there's 2 movies in development right now. One is Frankenstein, I think, and one is Bride of Frankenstein. Christian Bale is going to be playing Frankenstein in one of these films. Maggie Gyllenhaal is directing one of the movies. I don't know if she's directing the one Christian Bale is in, but there seems to be a great interest in that particular story right now.
I saw that there was an anniversary, and I'm trying to figure out which anniversary.
Okay.
Because there's so many Frankensteins.
Right. Is it Mary Shelley writing the book, or
or is it the movie?
Right.
One.
Okay, so there's something in the timeline.
In the timeline, the movie was 1933, therefore has to be the movie one, I'm guessing. But then Mary Shelley wrote the book in 1818, so that doesn't gel with an anniversary. But yes, I saw that there was an anniversary for Frankenstein, and that was what it was. Might be Boris Karloff also died 50 years ago. That's another.
Yeah, I mean, the anniversary thing makes sense. What my mind first went to was thematically. There must be something relevant right now. Humanity's search for what makes a human being, and the ideas of right and wrong, and we're creating it's creating itself this AI technology.
AI.
But that's funny. You should say
that's
that.
a manifestation of the technology coming to life, and we're us losing control over that technology.
I think that's all got to do with it, because we're actually touching on that in the book as well. Like, what is today's Frankenstein is AI.
Yeah.
Everybody's scared of the monster that is AI, which really is just a machine.
Right.
At the end of the day. So we are going to allude on that in the book as well. So yeah, that's going to be very exciting. It's a very big undertaking. And
do you have a release date for that yet?
Third quarter is what we said. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Hopefully it should be done by the end of May, and then it's up to the publishers when they'll release it. But
excellent. Well, we'll be following along closely to see when that's coming out, and we'll definitely be promoting it on our pages. Everyone go and check out Remo Camerota on Twitter, and we'll be pushing all of his links and
Remo.eth
and where you can see his work. Thank you so much for coming in and spending so much time with us. You've had a fascinating life and career, and it's been so interesting to hear about it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, same. Thank you very much.
And thank you to all of you in the Twitterverse, or the Xverse, or whatever you want to call it, who have tuned in today to listen to us talk to Remo. We really appreciate you being here, and as I've said before, it would be really hard to do a show with absolutely no audience. So thank you for facilitating what we do. We hope you have a beautiful weekend. I'm going to head to Colorado after this and celebrate my birthday. And
happy early birthday! It's Bingus's birthday tomorrow.
Yeah.
Everyone,
happy birthday!
Everyone
Hey,
give
thanks, man.
Bingus. He's
so,
turning into an old man over here, right in front of our eyes.
Yeah. So getting out of town for a bit, but I'll be back after that, and we'll have another show, and another one, and another one, and another one, as long as y'all can stand us. Yeah. So thank you. Love you. Have a great week. Sapo Studios, out.